Would you rather own 100% of a little grape or 10 to 30% of a massive watermelon? Welcome to the Nine Doors Down Show, where we discuss anything and everything about commercial real estate and investing. Let's get it.
Nine Doors Down.
John Lopez.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Tony Rose.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Anthony Pimentel.
Educating, capital raising, networking.
Nine Doors Down. Nine Doors Down.
This is called a show!
What's up, everyone? This is John Lopez from the Nine Doors Down Show. I'm here with my co-host,
Anthony Pimentel. What's up, guys?
All right. So this is episode 3 of the Nine Doors Down Show, and we thank everyone for tuning in on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, as well as on Spotify. And we have a great guest today. We met him several times at our Investors Lounge meetups. He goes by the name of John Taylor, or AKA John the Lone Guy on Instagram. Right. So we'll dive into him in just a few seconds. But Anthony, man, is there anything relevant that has gone on in the last couple of days since we last spoke?
I mean, just staying busy with the family. But I mean, I think there's the Fed rate. You know, they made that announcement, so maybe I think we can dive into that and let Jonathan, give us his perspective. But that's pretty much it.
All right, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, this past week, there's a new program where it's what is it, a 5% down for smaller multifamily?
Yeah, the biggest news was 5% down for 2 to 4 units coming live on November 18th. Yeah. So that takes the minimum percentage of 3 to 4 units of 25% down to 5.
Yeah,
so opens up the door to a lot of buyers.
All right, so we're gonna dive into that, John. So, John, let's let's provide a brief background for the listeners. Again, we met you at Investors Lounge Network at the, I forgot which location was it was the
BRRRR
Glendale, the BRRRR, and then our last one at
Paperback.
Paperback. Man, this guy John, he knows his breweries in LA. But what really stood out to me was man, you're very social, but you're not social where it's just like speed dating. You know what I mean? Where people are like, handing out business cards, you exchange information, right, as fast as possible, move on to the next person after 2-3 minutes. What struck me about you is like, man, you actually were you sat and was talking to me and Anthony for at least at the bare minimum 15 minutes at our first interaction, and you were giving us your insight on your of what emerging markets are becoming more and more popular, different loan products. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from? Where do you live? How did you get into real estate? And yeah, we'll start off with that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that really kind intro, by the way. Yeah, I'm a born and raised Californian. I grew up in the Central Valley in a small farm town, and then moved down to SoCal in 2005. Most of my career actually spent in the film industry. About 12 years I was working in the film industry. Really fun in my 20s. I traveled the world, was able to kind of live the high life for a little bit. But it was a young man's game, right? I was kind of, the hours weren't going to change. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. There were some years of my life where it just was a blur because I was just on set for, 5.5, 6 days a week for 10, 11 months of the year. And I got caught onto real estate just kind of by trying to see what worked, because I wanted it out. I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to have a family and not even know their birthdays because I would be gone so much. So a lot of my peers at the time owned real estate, and I was like, okay, I'll try that. Started looking into it, realized that I can have a property that has multiple units and pays my mortgage. And we're in a very high cost market. So that's what I decided to do. I found a loan program when I was still working in the film industry, used my income to qualify, and I closed on my very first property with no money down. Renovated the whole property, brought it all up, and now the property that's been my strongest investment to date so far. And that was hooked after that. So I was like, this is it. I'm getting out of film and I'm doing that. And I started with meetups. That's how I started to meet everybody and get to know everybody. And through a meetup, I met a broker who works at the firm I have now, and they brought me on board pretty early. And the rest is history. I've just been with them ever since, and growing and spreading all the loan knowledge, because it's a very challenging world in our aspect, understanding the debt. And I just glommed onto that really quickly, and I've ended up being really good at it.
So was your first property, was it a single family or was it a smaller multifamily?
It was a best case scenario, a slumlord triplex with an illegal unit.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So it was just there was a couple aspects that we got lucky on. It was mislisted. It was very high, and it was labeled as a duplex. When we went and saw the property, there's actually 4 addresses here, and we're like, something's not right. And we just found out that one unit, and this is only after we closed, I found out about it, was converted sometime in the 40s and was never permitted for like 75 years. So we came on, and we just saw opportunity on this one, right? Tons of code violations, but the bones were good. The structure was good. The foundation was good. So we're like, done, let's get it. So we got it, and we just gutted the whole thing and built everything from the ground up, redid floor plans and added efficiency units. And then basically my wife and I were going to live here. We're like, okay, what do we want? If we're going to rent this, we want central heating. We want in-unit washer and dryer. We want parking. We want outdoor space. And so we just built everything for that. And the neighborhood's coming up. And once we got everything fully rented, we were super excited. COVID hit. Everything was completely vacant. So then we re-rented it all again, while we're also permitting the other structure, which we ended up having as an ADU. So we converted that one as well, added all the amenities to it. And that was the fastest to date I've ever rented a unit. We got it rented with a qualified renter, background check and everything in 18 hours. We got a renter for that one.
Wow. And did you house hack that as well? Did you stay in
Yeah.
one of the units?
Yeah. I mean, we're still in it today. We just have built it out, and because we make, $2,000-$3,000 a month off this thing, we basically can take all that savings we would and just invest it in more properties.
For
That's
our
amazing, man.
newer listeners, can you go, well, you don't have to go super deep, but can you give a description of what is a house hack?
Yeah, a house hack is basically where you live in either a single family and rent out the rooms, or a multifamily and you rent out the other units. And so then in theory, the other units then would either pay for all of or most of the mortgage. So therefore you're paying a subsidized mortgage, meaning you're only paying a fraction of what market rent would be for the equivalent unit, or they're paying for everything. And then therefore you live for free. So very expensive markets, that's kind of the goal. That's the goal to set.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I mean, so take me back a little bit. So you're in the film industry. I know it's a grind.
Yep.
So kind of how did you get that? How did you come up with the down payment? I guess that's, did you save up money throughout the years, and then I know you're looking for properties, but usually a lot of our listeners and a lot of people get scared of the fact that, hey, I don't have a down payment. That's why they get scared of real estate. They're always thinking about the down payment. So kind of take us back, give us a background on how you guys got through that.
Yeah, well, I started this goal in 2016, and I was just, okay, I'm going to live very frugally and just stock all my money away. I was in the same mentality. Okay, I got to get 20% down. I want to make sure that I'm looking at all aspects. Okay. It was very new for me because I didn't know a lot, but I was like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm not the first person to have this problem, nor will I be the last. So the answers are out there. So I saved as much money as I could. I tried to find a realtor that was really on board with me, and I had 36 no's. Realtors are like, I don't want to work with someone new. I don't want to do it. This was a different market at that time, mind you. There was a lot of, it was a buyer-seller's market. So it was a little different than it is now. But then I got to be thankful. There was this one realtor who looked at me and said, look, I'm not going to be your person, but check out this loan program. It was called NACA, NACA, Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. I was like, sure, I'll check it out. They advertised, and they still do to this day, 100% financing, and then lend you renovation funds. And it's on a 30-year fixed note.
Welcome to the course on raising capital for investments. In this course, we'll cover the following topics. 1, analyzing your investment strategy. 2, discovering potential investors. 3, crafting your pitch. 4, securing your investment. 5, our cheat code. We'll round out the program with our very own cheat code for getting in front of investors and being ready to pitch your investment opportunities. Take action today. Visit schoolofninedoorsdown.com and learn to attract capital.
Right.
Do you have to take classes to get approved for that?
Yeah, you have to go through a process. You take a home buyer's workshop, you get assigned a mortgage counselor, and they kind of build you and get you ready for the process. It's a pros and a cons situation. It is a silver bullet, and we knew this going into it. So my wife and I was like, okay, the max you can buy is a 4-unit. Let's go for the max. So thankfully, when we closed, I did close with $4,000 down on a triplex in Los Angeles. Right?
That's unheard of, man.
I know. And I mean, this loan, this whole process was basically my absolute jumpstart to the industry. And I'll get into little details on to why later. But we bought the process. They lent me $136,000 to renovate. And again, I had no real estate experience. I could barely tell a difference between a stud and a header and a flashing. I didn't know any of the differences, right? So I'm going thither, and I was like naive. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Had a terrible experience with a contractor. He was a 5-year-old child. He'd throw fits all the time. Our 4-month timeline went into a 10-month timeline. And I'm getting my back against the wall here, right? Because I was thinking we could get this done in 6 months. I had the savings, and my mortgage payment was like $5,000 a month. So I'm chipping away at these savings. Granted, 6 weeks in, when I'm like, I'm going to leave the film industry, it'll be great, I get fired from my job. 6 weeks. Ooh. And I did not have a backup. So I was unemployed, and at this time, my wife and I are living in our friend's garage in Silver Lake. It was 180 square feet, and I'm like packing my lunch, going to the site, and just building and learning. I got my phone with YouTube videos. I'm trying to learn how to do everything that my contractor refused to do. So that was it was a tough time. I don't know if I wouldn't go that deep again, but it was the fastest education I could do, because we were getting in a position to where it was either go bankrupt or succeed. And we didn't have a lot of options. So we're like, we just have to figure this out. And we did. It took a little longer. I depleted all my savings. And then when I got into lending, which is how what I end up doing now, like I had to drive for Uber. I was driving for Uber. I was, making ends meet. I was still picking up film jobs, still lending. So I was doing 3 things while getting the property stabilized. And it was tough, yeah, but it absolutely skyrocketed my investing career after that, once we got it stabilized.
So would you say that being let go from your job was a blessing in disguise, or was it, or did you have a lot of animosity at first?
I was livid when I got fired. I put so much into that job, but absolutely, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. And I didn't realize that until later, because the day that I got fired, I was so angry. And I got fired because the film industry is very nepotistic, and I got fired because I wasn't related to anybody above me, not because of job performance.
Right.
And it just really got under my skin. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to go to a meetup tonight. There's some new folks I want to meet. I'm going to go. And at that meetup, I met the broker that brought me into the firm that I work for today. So if I didn't go that day, even if I wouldn't get fired that day, I'm not sure if I'd be where I am today. So yeah.
So you got let go on the same day where you met your future.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing, man.
Wow.
So that's why, like, meetups to me have been crucial to my career and my progression. So that's why, when I met you guys and when it got along, I was like, see, this is why I love this field so much. Meeting folks like you, learning so much, and there's so many different facets, and it's just been a never-ending learning roller coaster in all the best ways.
Man, that's an awesome story, man. I can see where you get your drive from, and that's actually, I was thinking back, and I was like, when I first met you, and I was like, this guy is like very active. I was like, Jonathan's very active, and then you always stayed in touch with us when we first met. You're very detailed in the way you explain things, and I, for sure, you left an impression on me, and that's why I think now we're in we're in these meetups. Now you're gonna help us launch the next meetup in December. And I think you just add so much value. And like you said, man, meetups is you never know who you're gonna meet, and you don't know who your next partner is gonna be. And we really appreciate you, coming out and sharing your knowledge, especially in the lending. That lending is there's so much information in the lending, and because of the fact that you're an investor and you understand the lending landscape, it's a win-win. So that's pretty awesome.
Thanks. And just one little tip on that one is at that meetup, I'm telling the same story I told you guys about the loan and the struggles and everything like that. And one of the brokers heard this, and his name's Alex Bakiza. He's been probably he's one of the best brokers I've ever met. He is so sharp, and I learned so much from him. And he said, "Hey, you should come into the office and meet the president." And I was like, "All right, sure, I'll come do that." At this time, I was not keen on lending. Met the president, incredible team that they have there. Everybody is specialized, and I'm learning from them every single day. And I told him what I did. I was like, "Oh yeah, I bought this house hack, and I had no money down. I was not aware that this was a very unique product. I was just, this is the one I was going to use, and I'm going to get it done." And he looks me straight in the eyes and goes, "No, I don't believe you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, he's like, "I've been doing this at that time. I think I've been doing it for 5 years." He's like, "I can't get that loan. Are you licensed?" I was like, "No, I'm not licensed." He's like, "You're unlicensed and you got this loan?" He's like, "I don't believe you." So I showed him my settlement statement. I was like, "See, here it is. Like, I put $4,000 down, and here's how much the property's worth, and here's how much I was borrowed." And he looks at it and goes, "All right, I think you should come in and start shadowing us." So it was the loan that I got that got my foot in the door for the career that I have now.
I'll be honest, I never heard of that loan either, and I've been doing this for a little bit more than 10, 15 years, and I didn't know.
Ironically, I've heard about this loan about a year ago, and I got a couple buddies of mine in LA that I'm trying to help them get into the first rental property. I first heard about this loan on Bigger Pockets, and I just knew that in order to get approved for it, you had to take classes. Like, it was like 2 or 3 classes, I believe it was, just showing paper that you're educating yourself, that you're going into this direction. But I think it might be a great tool for many people just to get that first asset.
It is, and there are catches. This is not a one size fits all. You cannot own real estate to get this loan. That's why investors don't hear about it a lot. It's designed for first-time home buyers that have zero ownership in real estate. We're talking out-of-state properties, anything like that. So that's why it's designed to deter investors. And so that's why when I refer to it as a silver bullet, I use it once, I can't use it again, and that goes for anyone. So that's why my wife and I pushed it to its full advantage. Because once we got it, now we can't use it again.
Now, are you able to? You've had the property for some time, like you mentioned. You've done some renovations. Now, can you refinance out of that loan? And what interest rate do you have?
If the rates were good, I would have, but I'm at 3.3 right now, so
okay.
I'm not refinancing. I mean, every dollar we put into the property, we got about 2.5 out in equity. So we got a massive equity chunk on our property, and so after what learning and lending for a while, we got a HELOC, and we use that HELOC to, I do private lending through the company. I go and buy other properties with it and then put it back. So that is how we've been able to access the equity on it. It's just you've heard the term infinite banking. A HELOC is one of those tools.
Yeah.
Powerful, man.
Yeah.
But so for our new listeners, you guys are picking up a lot of nuggets through John, because he's educating us. I think more and more now, can people use that loan for their primary residence?
Yeah, it's only primary. It's not an investment.
So you have to live in it. Okay.
You have to live in it. Yeah. So there's the primary owner occupancy, Fannie and Freddie, which you can use, which now November 18th can be 5% down. But the reason that this one is so strong is it includes value add, right? And that is what the strategy is working in the high cost of living market, the high rate market. Buying turnkey, not saying that that's a bad investment. It's just hard to make work in this market. So value add, forcing the appreciation, renovating, adding amenities. That's really where the strategies, are becoming profitable. And so that's why I pushed this one, because we massively value add. We tripled the rent that was existing in this property in just a year and a half. just by the upgrades. Granted,
Amazing.
it was a slumlord, guy ran it horribly, and we worked it to our benefit.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's
and then
awesome.
then from there we're gonna basically be using, the money we saved on rent. I bought a few properties out of state, and now I'm coming to look back in state and working on different strategies that I'm learning this year that I'm gonna probably implement next year. So
your
Amazing,
your
man.
story is a testament, man. Like I've said this on the last episode. Like everybody has a starting point, everybody has an end goal, but that missing component is always people. You found that person on the day that you were let go.
Yeah.
Talk about God's blessing, man. That is.
It was,
So cool.
over the pandemic, I got really involved into Formula One.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm not alone in this. A lot of my friends have, but the consistent that I've heard on that is those really the elite athletes. They say whenever you have a roadblock or some really sort of potentially devastating event, you use that energy only to better yourself. Because it's very easy to say, I wasn't good enough, I can't do it. My haters are right. That's just the only moment where you have to say, no, I'm not the only one that has this problem. There are resources out there that can help me, and this should only give me energy to do more, to get more, and to be better than the people who thought less of me.
So to many people, that's hard. How do you maintain that tunnel vision and block out all the noise through all the chaos?
Honestly, I grew up very frugal, and my motivation is I don't want to be that. So it's a money motivation in the start, and I don't like putting money towards something that won't make me money, right? Rent being one of them. So one of the things was like, I don't want to pay somebody rent. I want to be the one collecting it. And that was just where my focus was. And then once I got the property, got it, the feeling when you get that first rent check on your first property, it was I think it was like $1,500 or something, but it was the best feeling. You're just like, yes, I proved them wrong, and then the checks keep coming every month. And then you're like, I want to do this again. It just that feeling of like taking away the power of someone to fire me is now I don't have that. I have passive income. I have residual income. Somebody says, oh, hey, I'm not, you're not going to work for me. I was like, that's fine. I don't need you. I'm doing this because I want to.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a twofold, but I want to have more autonomy over my time and my income.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So let's kind of pivot into like the new Fannie Mae program, the 5%.
Yep.
I want to kind of get your opinion on that. What do you think? How is it going to change the whole kind of investing for newbies or guys trying to get into it? How do you think it's going to help, or is it how it's going to benefit them?
I think that it's going to be a mix of strategies. I think it's a great step, but I don't think it's going to be a wave of purchases, just because whenever you do Fannie or Freddie, you still have to take in your existing debts and the new mortgage along with your income. And you have to calculate that together to make sure that you're within the guidelines that Fannie and Freddie allow for how much debts you take on versus your income. It's called the debt to income ratio. And it's very common. So even if you have only 5% down, that means you're taking on a 95% loan to value loan. And that's going to be a pretty heavy mortgage payment for folks like in Los Angeles, right? This is a different market. But I think in the other like secondary Middle West markets, that's probably going to be a huge impact for people to be able to afford and house hack. And again, 5% is the minimum. You could put 10 or 15, and then you just still have less down. You can put more equity in there, and your payments are more or lower. So I think it's just utilizing that is a great first step for folks. Then they'll be like, oh, get that 20% out of your mind. There's a lot of flexibility with loan structure, right? You can also put more money to buy the rate down, right? So there's other ways that you can trick and push these loan programs to fit for the people who are looking to buy. So I think it'll move the needle a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be this wave of purchases just because of the high rate environment. Mortgage submissions are the lowest it's been since the 90s. We have the highest rates we have since the early 2000s. This is a hard market,
right?
But even in hard markets, you can still get deals. You can still get a purchase. You can still capitalize on the benefits of real estate. So, it's very easy to say that now that I have owned, but I'm still trying to buy right now. It's still very hard, but there are strategies in place that can get it done. And this, I think, is one of those that'll help.
Right, right.
No, would you say that you're now, so you, since you became an investor first, then you got into lending. Now, with your experience of lending, how much has it helped you now to like identify your next asset? It was like, okay, this is the one I'm gonna submit an LOI for.
Exponentially, right? Because the reason I bought out of state is twofold. One, a few of my investor clients are investing out there, and second, I was originating loans and I was seeing the numbers, and I was like, this is making complete sense. So I bought out there. One of our other investors also had a little jump start on me. He was investing out there for a year, and so he was sharing his numbers. I'm underwriting numbers with clients coming through, and I was like, great. So then I understood the loan program so well that I was basically buying properties to fit a loan program instead of vice versa. Buying a property, then trying to put a loan program on it. I had the program and tried to fit a property to it. And so that was how I'm investing. And then now I want to come back to California. I still believe in the California market. So there's about 4 strategies that I'm working with to try to fit more properties and get the cash flow going, because it can happen. It can happen here. But that lending knowledge that I've learned and the creative financing structure has just been invaluable for my investing career.
That's amazing.
Man, my head is pinwheeling right now, man. Like just listening to you, John, like I'm like having so many ideas of just through this conversation, man. So where do you see the direction of California? Because I know you mentioned you want to get back into California. Like, what would be an ideal scenario for you to invest back into California and for any other investors?
So there's 3 strategies, and you can always mix these that I'm seeing. And there's deals I'm closing and seeing the numbers that are working. One is value add. I'm not seeing any turnkeys work. Even straight refinances, we're still taking lower loan to values at 65 to 70% on just rate and term or cash out refis. And that's usually properties that were purchased a while ago. But for properties purchasing now, there's 30 and 40-year amortized loans where the first 10 years are interest only. And then you qualify the property based only on the interest only payment, and you don't include the principal. Being that our loan amounts are so high, this is a pretty big difference for debt coverage ratios, right? And they're fixed for 30 years, all right? We're not a balloon payment. And secondly, adding ADUs, expanding the units, making sure that you have a very large 1-1 and you divide it into a 2-1, right? Even if it's like 1,000 square feet. So finding those properties that have the size that you can add bedrooms and baths to make it more valuable and rental amount. And second is underwriting it on strictly short-term income. We have loan programs where you can say, oh, let's do an appraisal and list the short-term rental income on the appraisal. 9 times out of 10, that's 50, 60, 70% higher than you'd get on regular long-term rentals. What that means is higher leverage, higher loan amounts, less cash out of pocket, or you get all your cash out on the refinance, right? So those are 2 that I've seen and are working. And the third one is it's not a new concept, but it's a new strategy that's coming in, getting more popular now, and that's tenant in commons. Not the ownership style, because if I own a property with my wife, one property, single unit as a tenant in common, that's what's called a vesting structure. But if you do a tenant in common conversion, that's where you take a 2 to 4 unit and you split it up as similar as a condo style. But it's a little different because you only have one APN, right? One parcel number. So the lenders are much limited, but they lend. And I've done this before in San Francisco. And that's where you basically buy a 4-unit standard renovation, and then you sell each unit individually. They're usually 10 or 15% less than the comparable unit if it's a standalone or a condo, but you add them all together and you're probably looking at a more 40% more than you would earn if you just did a straight flip or a hold. So then you do that strategy mixing with ADUs and renovations, and those are the 3 strategies I'm implementing and trying to get a property here at Q1 of next year.
Wow, man. I mean, to our listeners, this is not something you're going to get if you walk into a bank and say, hey, I need to get a loan for this. This is the way to
get a loan off of short-term numbers.
And
that's new to me.
Let me ask this question.
Yeah.
So, because we have this relationship, if I came into you and was like, hey, this is the deal we're looking at, which we have. You helped us size up our deals. Unfortunately, it just hasn't penciled out yet. But I mean, these are things that you're looking out for us, right? For the
Yeah.
investor, because you're trying to figure out, like you said, creative financing. What is the best way to get this deal done and make sure that we make money and everything pencils, right?
Yeah.
So that's freaking awesome, man. I mean,
And
it's so valuable.
I love it because it's like this chessboard, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many subtleties because our company works with about 100 lenders, right? A lot of them offer DSCR products, but there's subtle differences between each one, right? One might have a longer seasoning requirement. One might have a higher credit or lower credit requirement. One might not lend to some owners versus, or one entity versus another entity. So all these are subtle differences. And so that's when I like having your deals, because you said we're like, here's what we're looking to do. Here's our ideal numbers. See what you can get. And I feel like I'm like, great, off to the races. Let's see what we can get. And then I'm talking to folks. I'm trying to trick it. It's like, okay, if we structure it this way, or if you're willing to tweak it by having a slightly larger percentage on a guarantor or a key player or something like that, then we can push it to the line of getting an LOI issued. And yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years, and I still get excited when a fun deal comes down the line.
Yeah, you know what? Just real quick, I'm a memorable moment for me in our last meetup at Paperback. I think there was a group of guys around you. We were chatting, and then you started talking to this new group of guys, and you were talking about all this stuff about creative financing, and I was just kind of just watching, and these guys were like all in shock, like with all the info and knowledge you've been like, explaining to them. They're like, "What? You could do that?" And it was just funny, just the looks on their faces was like, what, we could do this, and it's crazy. I mean, think outside the
Power of
box.
meetups right there.
Exactly. Meetups are the best. And also it's like it's where I learn, right? Because I love the knowledge that I get. And I when there's a client that I know or somebody who I know can benefit from it, I just want to, here's a little nugget of truth. Hey, you know what, let me dispel that myth. But then I learn. I'm learning about, right now I met a client at a meetup who's doing boarding housing, ground up boarding housing, and designing it as such. And I was like, you know what? I don't have boarding housing lenders yet. And so I've hit the deck now, and I'm starting to find boarding housing who lends on specific strategies and that. And so I was like, that is not something that would even pass my bar. I have not thought of that. And so it's always this two-way street of me, are you familiar with the giver's gain mentality, where you go up there and givers always just want to give, and I gain a lot because builds my reputation. A lot of clients walk away impressed, and then builds a relationship. So I gain a lot out of it, but then also they do the same to me. They give me a lot and strategies, and then gives me more homework to walk away from. I was like, I got to be an expert in that, because I think that's going to be the next. I'm going to get more calls about that. I need to learn more about it so I can be on the cutting edge of lending for whatever next investing tool is out there.
That's what it's all about, man. That's what I call the watermelon mentality, right? Rather than keeping 100% of a small grape to yourself, and just withholding all the information and not sharing it with others. People don't realize that you're actually losing out if you don't give and have the abundance mindset of sharing the knowledge, because what you're doing is you're educating others. They're going to learn on it. Then next thing you know, they put their own little twist into it. Now that they have their own style and flavor. Now, next thing you know, they're educating the teacher, and it's that cycle that everybody just keeps elevating. So that I love that.
Yeah, and the thing I call is like the property pie, right? You have the property itself, location, amenities, everything. You have the management of it, right? Making sure it operates efficiently, and then you have the debt. Right. And those make up like the pie and that type. And so when I talk about property pie and I talk about understanding the debt, there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. So I know I'm not going to be on the forefront and like changing the lending game on that. I just want to make sure people understand that the debt is a very important aspect of a good property. So if I can make sure I'm introducing new folks to different tools and change that mindset, saying like, no, you don't need 20% down, or yes, you do, but here's a way to get it, because I have lenders who allow seller financing. So you can do combined loan to value. So therefore it is less out of pocket, but you'd still be able to get it with less than the 20% down mentality, right? And it's just understanding that there is more options, right? You're not stuck in one lane. It's not set in stone. Let's look at it as a chessboard, see what pieces we can make play,
For the new investor, what advice would you give them? how to start and build a relationship with a lender, because it's like you said, it's a very important component to this business. And like, what are some best practices that you've seen that has gotten your attention from an investor, and what are some like bad practices where you're like, okay, I'm not gonna touch this guy?
I'll start with the bad practices first, and then we'll roll into how it goes there. One is when somebody calls me and says, "Can I pick your brain?" And if I'm in a meetup setting, have at it. If I'm working, that to me is basically saying they want to take from me and then go away. And that to me is a little bit like, this is a two-way relationship, right? I'm always happy to educate, but my time is quite valuable. So that is one thing where if somebody says, "Can I pick your brain?" I'm just like, I got to get off this call, right? And the reason is they don't know what they don't know, and that's fine. But to roll into what's the better option is read, educate, have an understanding first. Because if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a lot of money. I want to do in real estate. What do I do?" And my first answer is, I'm going to give you homework. Here's 4 books to read. If you read them and come back to me and now you have a little more understanding, then I can help you. Because it's got to know what their direction is, or even just a lane. Like, I don't want to pay rent anymore. Great, I'm dealing with a house hacker. I know what options to hold. Or, you know what, I want more passive income. I want to make $10,000 a month and I want to buy out of state. Perfect. I know what DSCR loan products to educate you on and understand that. Or if it's like, they come to me like, I want to buy a 20 unit, but I have no experience. So it's like, great, I know how to guide that. But when they come to me with a blank slate, that's one of the least effective approaches when speaking with someone who knows something in the film industry, or I'm sorry, in the lending industry.
That's great tips and great advice. And yeah, and the building relationship is very important. So, you know, there's a tactful way of going about things, and there's ways that you could really piss some people off. And in my opinion, the community is small, so your reputation, whether it's good or bad, it's going to spread pretty quick.
Yeah, and here's one example that happened recently, and it really got under my skin. I know, like, I shouldn't be reactive in my world, but sometimes it does, because I want to see people succeed, right? I want to see people get deals, make money, and then just start rolling the ball, because I'm in that same path. I want to do it. I want to bring more people on. There's plenty of pieces of pie that for people to have. It's not going to be, you know, I have to take this from you. It's, we can get to build together. We can do this concurrently. And there was a group of investors who wanted to do their first mini syndication on a massive value add in Pasadena. So I spent about 3 months of my time educating them, structuring them. Hey, here's what we're looking at. Here's what we're doing this. And then I get them under contract. And then they come to me and they go, "Oh, your rates are too high. I don't want to pay points." And I was like, okay, you know, I'm not the cheapest out there. I'm going to be very direct on that. But you also get what you pay for, right? If you have somebody who's charging no origination below market rates, 9 times out of 10, they can't close, because there's a lot of understanding on the lending side of, I know why they can't close. And I'm doing that. But it was just the fact that I had put time into it. I had put energy. I really was rooting for these guys. Yeah. And then they just said, "Oh yeah, we're not going to go with you because you're too expensive." And so that's where I was like, I know their names. I know what LLCs they are. So, and I know a lot of the lenders. So it's one of those things where small world, where it's not like I'm going to be, you know, but if I get their call again, I'm probably not going to pick up, and I'll say, "Hey, no, you can go to the lender down the street, and I don't want to work with you."
Yeah, that's something people, I mean, I guess new investors don't understand. It's not closed until you get past that finish line. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong. You know what I mean? It's, if you're working with the right person, which it shows you put in the effort, you know you can get it done. That's the reason you put in all the work. You know, you're not going to waste their time either. You're respectful of their time. Hey, if this is not going to work for you, I'm not going to spend my time on it. But the fact that you did, you know, shows that you could get it done. And I mean, who knows what happened with them and what they did if they got it to the finish line. But still, yeah, that's not cool. So
yeah, you know, and it's also being communicative, saying, "Hey, I want to go alone, but here's my bucket. I don't want to pay points, and I want less than 10% or 9% on a fix and flip." And I go, "I'm not your guy. Private money is your option, right?"
Yeah.
And that's fine. But you tell me, great, on you go. Wish you the best, and then we'll circle back on the next one. And that would have kept the relationship. But the fact that they took and then said bye, and I don't want to go with you. And that's just where the relationship is, where I'm not saying that everybody who speaks to me has to go with me. There's been many clients that I've had that I have not done a deal with, but they keep coming back to me because they say, hey, here's what I'm being offered. And I'm like, you know what? Let me math this. And I look at it and I look at what all my options are. I do the math, I weigh it, and I go, you know what? Who you have is better than what I can offer. I'd encourage you to go that way. And they go, oh, okay. Then I get referrals from them, right? Then they call me, and that's just me being honest, right? Because if I'm in that position, which I have been, trying to get a loan, not being, effective with it, I want someone to say flat out, this is the best option for X, Y, and Z, and it's not with me. And then that builds a fine relationship with them. I didn't get the loan, but I'm not going to overcharge anybody. I'm not going to push them in a direction that's not best for them. So, there's always a balancing act. And actually, just last week, had one of those exact issues. It was like 2 months ago. I was like, yep, it's better with who you have. Comes back, they couldn't close. And he was like, well, I liked your math, so I got 2 loans from that client. So that was a good win.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but it's that kind of enjoyment that I get, because it's complicated, but I can help people, and it's closing those tough loans is like a huge high five. So at least in the office.
So let me ask you this: what is the painting of John the Loan Guy? What does it look like 5 years from now?
The painting?
The
is that what you
painting.
said?
Well, actually, you know what? We'll make it more appropriate for you, for the industry you come from. What does the movie look like?
Oh, I've never been asked that question. That's a good question. I would just say, like, I was very plucky in the beginning, but I was determined. So I think it's like a story of like trials and tribulations. But once in 5 years, I'm going to be hitting my net worth goals and my income goals, and I'll be able to have that property and have more of a expanded real estate. And that'll give me more time to then, do teaching on debt, or give back on more classes, and dedicating more of my time so people can walk away educated, right? And understand how valuable understanding the debt is. But yeah, I would be at a time where I'll work with the clients I want to work with, but I wouldn't be brokering as 100% of my income, because I want to expand more. I want to grow more, and I'll have to take time away from that. But yeah, it'll be sort of like a rise and fall, sort of like a road trip movie, except with loans.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then for any of our listeners right now who are happen to be sellers, what's your buy box for your next round of properties?
So I'm going to experiment with a tenant in common right now in the Q1, right? Because that is a complex structure, but I've seen purchase and sale HUDs, and they're just the profit margins on those are quite substantial. So that's one. And the second is I'm looking to take down either a 40 to 80 unit next year as well. So I'm starting to do my market research on it. And I'm reading a few books. One is Multifamily Millionaire by Brian Murray. That's the one I'm looking at, along with he also wrote Crushing It. So I'm looking at those books, reading those, and just going back to some of my old readings, which is Think and Grow Rich. Everyone's always mentioned. The other book I love is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Andrew Carnegie, back in that was written in like the 40s, I think it was.
Yeah, it was long ago.
But yeah, I'm just constantly educating, and so those are my 2 goals for next year, is to get those 2 properties, because they're wildly different structures. But there's ways I think that one, the multifamily is going to take a hit in the next 18 months, because all the fixed rate debt from the 18 to 20s are starting to expire, and the rents are staying the same, but the costs are coming down because people can't afford it at the higher rates. So you're probably going to get anywhere from a 15 to 20% discount. That's a prediction, mind you. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but the commercial debt is that traditional structure of fixed rate periods, and then they go adjustable based on the 10-year yield or the 5-year yield. And so then, therefore, I'm going to start targeting secondary markets in the Midwest for that, to see if I can find a good buy box for the multifamily.
Love it. A guy with a vision, man.
Yeah.
So, John, Anthony and we could stay on Zoom for like another 4 hours just talking to you. This is like, it's blowing me away, and I'm sure it's going to blow many listeners away. But before we sign off, we're going to go through our lightning round. This is when Anthony and we're just going to ask like 2 or 3 super random questions. You just give your answer right off the cuff, and we'll just take it from there.
Let's go.
The first one is, you're stuck on an island. What is but you do have your Android or your phone. But the problem is you only could load up one artist I'm sorry, you can only load up one album. What is that album that you're going to listen to 24/7 on an island?
Oh, that is a great question. I'm going to say 2004 Green Day American Idiot.
Oh, Green Day,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
Classic
gotta be American
90s
Idiot.
punk pop. That's the one I like. Everyone thought I was going to probably go classical in this one. I was like, nope. I'm a 90s like punk pop. That's my jam back in 90s early aughts.
That's amazing. That's a good day. That's a good album.
That's a good
Yeah.
one. Good choice.
I mean, rock anthem, can't go wrong.
Yeah. So here's my question is, I know you're a big traveler. Like you said, you travel the world. Now, do you prefer a beach or mountain? And whichever one you prefer, where would you go?
Mountain is my go-to. I'd
Oh,
love to
wow.
go to mountains. Yeah. Where would I go? I would probably do Mount Kilimanjaro or go to some of the mountains on the Nepal side in South Asia would be where I'd want to go. I'm not much of like a mountaineer, like ice climber, but I'd mostly just want to do Everest Base Camp or Kilimanjaro would be my two options.
Those are the really dangerous ones, right? Where you die and stuff, right? Like,
Well, when a mountain starts with kill a man, it's pretty serious.
because I know you need like oxygen tanks when you get to a certain altitude. So, that's pretty crazy, man.
Well, base camp I think is at 16 or 17,000 feet. Or don't quote me on that one, but I wouldn't want to do Everest. I just want to do base camp. That to me is where I'd want to do. Everest to me is my Everest is, achieving my net worth goals, but the Everest that's as high as I'd want to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
Cool.
one last question. John, what is your superpower?
Math.
Math.
Yep.
It's got to be.
There you go.
The truth
It's
in all
gotta be.
things. Now,
Yep.
were you a strong mathematician through school?
I was a decent mathematician. I wouldn't say I was like a mathlete or anything of that. But the lending style of math just is really within my lane. I understand rates for amortization schedules, how to make sure something cash on cash returns. Like it's basically real estate is like you can get heavily rewarded with good math because you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Business related math.
Yeah,
Well,
but although the best introduction that I do is something I was like, I'm great at three things: people, skills, and math. And then they look at me and what?
Yeah.
all right.
So,
And for our listeners, man, where can they find you? Any social media handles, websites?
Yeah. My main handle right now, I'm pushing a lot of content out on Instagram. It's John the Lone Guy, Jon the Lone Guy. I just kind of hear what my clients have to say, make content about it. Once I got more properties under contract, I'll kind of be going over also my investing experience style of that. But that's kind of my main contact. That and Facebook is basically where I'm going to be doing most of it. I started that last month, been getting some good reactions to it. I'm just going to kind of keep tinkering with that, play with some of those structures on those platforms. But got any questions, just shoot me there. And if you want me to make a video about it, I will. I'll do market updates and things like that. But I'm there more time than I want to admit.
Good stuff, John the Lone Guy.
Yep.
Again, we just want to thank you for taking the time, hopping on this podcast with us, and
Of course.
we look forward to building with you, man. Let's work on this December Investors Lounge Network. I think it's gonna be good for the community. And as far as the 9 Doors Down show, this is John Lopez and
Anthony Pimentel.
we out.
Peace.
Peace.